Well, I told Tyler, I said,
Wow. I'd be
Tyler, I
interested in
said,
reading it. That's pretty
we
cool.
just got to go down
Oh, look at all this stuff.
down Crowheart. I said, that's to the end of the month. Oh, really? I'm like, yeah. I said, deeded land, you can do it to the end of the month.
And Mike's usually really good about letting people, especially kids.
Oh, that's good though. That means something's happening.
Logan's with me this week, but all next week he'll be up. And that's what he does. They just get up early in the morning and plug one. But yeah, he was gonna go with Jack a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, "Sweet, Jack knows where Elk are. Go with it. Go, Jack." And then they ended up not going.
Every year till season comes around again.
I know. I'm like, one of you has to get an elk because Keegan put in and got the early archery tag, and then it's only like 2 weeks earlier than the other ones, and he never ended up being able to go because he's been so freaking busy. That he ended up not, so now I think it turns into a cow tag only, like as of November, I think. I'm reading about it. And I'm like, something, because otherwise I have a cow, I have a steer ready, but
Other guy there at the shop, he's never out there before either. You just see something like, somewhere, just kind of like out in wide open.
yeah, yeah.
So yesterday, Martin, like, hey, by the time you zoomed in on the spot, took a picture, and zoomed in again, so it looked like it was a little closer.
Right.
He's like, where at? I said, I'll drop a pin on Onyx for you. I was like, this morning, what's in that big bowl with the right-handed noon rock? I said, you should have got started earlier.
Yeah. That's what I was talking to James Ursland the other day. And that's the case that he went up, like clear up to where the old radio towers were. He's like, I wasn't even really looking. He's like, I just headed up here to do something else. And he goes, in this big, and he said it was a 5x5. He goes, and of course then I shot it because it was there. And he goes, I couldn't get it myself, and I was up there by himself. I'm like, what are they doing? He said he had to come back down, and then they had to go up the next morning and get 3 or 4 people to help him north before he could get it out of there. But he's like, I wasn't expecting to see anything up there. He's like, I haven't seen anything all year. But he said he was way up there.
Hanson is the last name. Tabby Hanson. Hanson. Hey, Jimmy. How are you? Got to power up, don't you?
My computer battery.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's
Lasting shorter times now.
Oh, I don't know.
I heard.
Yeah, so Tyler and I went out Tuesday morning. Facilities meeting this morning. Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Now, broke this road. Cow.
I'm good. I had charged it yesterday.
All right.
Things
That's
were
what I see. Everybody's supposed to try. I made it all the way up in there, and they were down this draw.
I tell you
They saw me
I was
going.
out doing busting this morning.
Where I was going.
Just
I'm like, thanks, guys.
fattest
We get to the
flakes
end
I've
of the
ever
road.
seen.
It's
Just
25, we bunch up, and
Flat
turn around and
flakes.
look at us. I'm like, get out. So I'm looking, I'm like,
Yeah, it was cool.
okay.
Outside.
A bunch of them were looking up to the side. I'm like,
Some places you don't get that.
waiting, I mean, 75 yards.
Yeah, it was pretty this morning.
Out of the traffic.
Hi,
Yeah,
Lori.
it was pretty.
Hello, Lori.
That's crazy.
Hello, how's everybody doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Who do we have there? Or maybe I should say who don't we have?
Everybody but you.
All right.
Yeah, it's just been a weird year. I keep hoping after this big cold snap it'll get better. But we'll see. Pushing down a little bit.
I got my last sprinkler done today.
Oh, really? Nice.
Looking like the last minute here.
Right? I know, we still need to winterize our camper. I keep looking at it going, I need to get that done. But keep running out of time.
I think it's my last one.
Right? Till somebody else calls and goes, oh, I forgot.
I usually just have a list. I just go and do it. And I don't even
That's the way
wait
to
for
do
them
it.
to call.
Yeah.
You can't.
That's the way to do.
So I'm trying to
I
access
don't want to do it yet.
these
You
two
look on the
documents,
list,
but it
snows,
says my
then
access
you're on your
You're
own.
in trouble. Yep.
You don't have
what's
blown
that?
out stuff.
That's it.
Blown out buildings.
Yeah, sprinklers.
Forgot to.
So I just, I have so many to do. I have to start kind of early or else I don't get them done.
Wait.
I think it's because you're
And,
signing
people are still.
with your.
Oh,
they're
like-
one in the
Yeah.
vicinity,
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Fremont too.
30 degrees outside, the grass isn't germinating.
That shouldn't be an issue.
They want to keep it wet. I'm like, it's fine.
You're not doing anything, you're wasting water.
I don't know
You're just
why I'm
paying
putting
for
such a
water.
blank here.
I shut mine off almost a month ago.
Right.
What's that?
Well, I shut mine off about a month ago because I had to leave and I thought, well, I don't know what the weather's gonna be like.
I still have I have a
On
ton of
my-
houses to do. I haven't even
you know, my
started the houses
desktop.
yet, but
I have all
these people,
4 of my.
did you do the house yet? I'm like, no,
But
no
this
sprinklers.
laptop I
Well,
don't.
we left, we didn't leave the heat on. I'm like,
If you did,
Yeah.
so like, it
just
doesn't,
add,
just
yeah.
leave and then just turn the heat off. Well,
Just
just
add a
You can leave it at 50.
Okay.
Fremont.
until I get there and then I'll turn it
Turn
off.
it off.
We'll be like,
That's the
years
one
and
I have.
years and years we've been going through this.
Yes, yeah, it should.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
It's the quickest way to get you out there.
No, because then I'm like, you know what? Well, if it freezes and breaks, guess what? After fixing it, it's not my problem.
Okay.
Go ahead and hit next. And then
You got your own sprinkler blown
any
up?
idea what the
I
password.
think I do now.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, you're
I'm still
90% of the way
practicing.
there then.
Yeah.
You're gonna work on that this year though.
What, sprinklers?
Okay.
I was gonna,
So.
mine are the first ones, mine are the first ones getting turned on. I turn them on early because if you do, I can fix them and not
I think I'm in.
charge
Just to
anybody.
turn on sync.
Go ahead and do
You
yes.
got one of those little.
That'll just keep that.
Okay, now you can go back
I'm
and
gonna
see.
take it. So-
Right? Oh.
Yeah, so go ahead and put that down.
Oh, just in case you don't get it unlocked.
Yeah, if we just.
I'm
Oh,
gonna-
I just got it all going.
I wouldn't have a sprinkler system if I didn't have one.
Request
Wonders of
access.
technology.
I know,
Well,
I
that's
know.
why I asked, it's like, this.
Thank you.
So now I should get an email.
Well, what that'll do is.
Hey, if everything went smooth,
Sandra or Steve.
We wouldn't know what to do. would we?
days to do.
He's like,
Well, maybe she'll have them in paper.
bad, you know, not much more than, because they just want to.
Um,
And all sorts of stuff.
I think we can get to them.
Must not be on the meter or something.
Oh, like, they don't have it. I'm like, you just got.
There's a
He's
couple
like,
of them, yeah.
it's like, you shouldn't quite that much. I'm like,
It's pretty expensive.
but we don't have sewer.
And it's just because it doesn't seem
Well,
well.
that's what they should do though. They should have some kind of metering where they can meter the sprinkler water and not charge you water and sewer for what you're putting on your yard. And then even in the summertime, they should discount
There we go.
people that have sprinkler systems. So the town doesn't look bad and everybody has a green yard. And then
Right.
you can, make your rates go back up
And I
later
didn't
on.
realize that, because
Maybe,
somebody asked me.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
since we did that change,
What is it?
Probably. Which isn't a big deal as long as we got it. we're good.
Ours is right at,
Me too.
ours is right at like 97, 98, under
Oh,
$100 a
sign in
house.
with another?
My shop.
well, I think since we've got this one listed as either
Yeah,
commercial one.
these are all 4 that I have.
And you probably use way less of everything there.
No water hardly ever used.
Yeah.
But since it's commercial, you have to pay that commercial rate. It's much. And I'm like.
Okay, that's all right.
Steve, you ready?
But I'm like barely over the gallons because.
You ready, Steve?
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, we got 6 o'clock.
Figure it out.
Stand, say the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We need an approval for the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Approval of minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from our regular board meeting on September 21st and our work session on October 5th.
Second?
Third.
Discussion. Those in favor? Aye.
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 Consent agenda.
One item I just want to update the board on prior to me sending out, after I send out the commentary. You'll notice on item E, we've got a recommendation for hiring for another full-time custodian that would bring us up to 3. So very, very excited about that, and already have plans for the process of onboarding and getting some training started. Robin and I spent some time with Tabby yesterday, and I think that'll be a good fit for us. So that is the one addition that wasn't part of the commentary when I sent that out. So just want to bring that to your attention.
And Steve, can you update us on like the middle school wrestling program? Where are we with that?
So as of today, we are still without a coach. However, Tina and I had an exciting conversation today that there might be an individual out there that is interested in being a coach. So we may still be able to resurrect that. We're working on an opportunity to sit down with them maybe yet this week and kind of see where we're at with things, and we'll proceed accordingly and let you know what we find out. So
Thank you.
B is plumbing services, and that's just announcement that.
yep, what you did a year ago, just to keep everything above the line, and all you're doing is getting that approval for that advertisement that needs to go out. So the donation, Tim will talk a little bit about that a little bit later on in his presentation, but we've had a real exciting offer to have some pretty significant equipment donated to the program. So really excited about the prospects of that and what that will mean for our students here. And then Tina and I had a conversation, I don't remember if it was the end of last week or the first of this week, about approving winter coaching assignments. And I went back and couldn't see where that had been done. So if it's redundant, you're doing it twice, but we want to make sure we get those assignments approved tonight as well, if you would, please.
Any questions, comments, discussions? Do we need to have a motion to approve it?
Yeah, you just approve the consent agenda if you would.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second that.
Any more discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Presentations.
So we have to adjust our a little bit. Tina has an announcement that she'd like to make tonight regarding one of our sports teams. We'll have our volleyball champions come in the November board meeting. We need to have that in the November agenda, but want to give the floor to Tina for a minute so she can update the board on some recent developments.
Members of the board, thank you. We had, our football team is qualified for the playoffs. We're excited about that. They'll play Hewlett on Friday the 29th. And our middle school volleyball team are conference champions. So we'd like to have them here and introduce them to you and let you give them a rah-rah because they were well deserving. It's a good group of kids, and it's just a fun time. So very cool.
Thank you.
And we're at Hewlett, so my understanding is that that's going to be a little bit of a drive. So
Only about 6 hours.
piece of cake.
So
For us.
So student council report. I'd like to offer the floor to Miss Lydia, please.
I'm gonna just digress for just a minute. When we take kids overseas, we spend a lot of time on a bus. And our kids get on that bus and they are out. They've been trained from day one to sleep on the bus. So they're on the bus and they're out. And so we get off the bus, they're ready to go. And the other kids are like, not our kids. They're out, they're up and out where they go. So, anyway, so our student council had a good meeting last week with the kids and all our 7-12 reps back into class meetings the following day to get some information from them regarding a couple things that were brought up last year and never really addressed, that the two boys wanted to do. We didn't get very far, but we also asked them to give us some cool ideas, some things they might like to be able to do as a whole, K-12 with community and what have you. So we've got lists from every class and really cool activities that they've come up with. Some could be fundraisers. I think one of the coolest was turkey bowling. So in the gym, we'd set up like a slip and slide thing and you take an actual turkey and you're bowling with a frozen turkey. I mean, it was just some really cool things that they came up with. So, we were supposed to have a meeting today. We didn't because we were missing too many kids to be able to do that. So we'll have a meeting next Tuesday. I apologize, your president, vice president were supposed to be here. I'm not really sure. We have on football field, a lot of hay here. So that's why we're here. We'll talk to them tomorrow, but, we've got some good things planned out. We laid out every month what we generally do and said you need to schedule around that. So we're pretty excited with how it looks.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Under D, if I may, just keep going. Tim's going to talk to us a little bit tonight about some of the changes that he's made in the art program and kind of give us an update and maybe even talk a little bit about the equipment that the board's approved.
Since I've come on, it's been quite a few changes in the art room. I've pulled out some of the wheels that were in storage, and so I've set up the whole room so that it's capable of sustaining clay work. So I've had several classes come in, and they're really excited to be able to just get on a pottery wheel and make pots. Or I had a really cool thing happen today where my sixth graders were just working on some clay projects. One of them just stopped and said, "Mr. Race, thanks for letting us do this." Like they were getting away with something, you know? It's just like, so my goal in there is to definitely broaden the opportunities for those students. I've talked to Neil even about offering a lot more digital art opportunities. And in fact, we did our first digital art project for sixth grade. You might have seen it, a mural that we installed on the wall that was generated from pixel art software online. So they would design their own pixel art, and then as a group, we created a mural using 3x3 sticky note size pixel. You know, each sticky note is a pixel. So they're definitely getting a lot more exposure to just different media, and also kind of bringing in more of their own ideas as far as concept development and creative problem solving. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. As far as the equipment goes, just having more equipment, there's going to be a pottery wheel and a kiln. Those two things just by themselves are quite expensive pieces of equipment that most schools, especially this size, can maybe barely acquire one or two. So it's just really nice to get some of those in there, and something that the art department can definitely be proud of have. So, and there's a lot more work to be done. I'm hoping to resurrect just a general art club. So maybe for students who aren't necessarily drawn to sports teams, can have a place to go. Creating the classrooms so that it's inviting. So even during RAM time, before we kind of make these changes to RAM time, it's almost an incentive for those students to do well so that they can come to the art room during that time to work on different projects. So it's a place that they want to be. So it's clean. I cleaned up the closets, organized it all. So I think it's all heading in a very good direction.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I think one of the exciting parts about the kiln is it's basically plug and play. We take the old one out and quite carefully insert the new one, and we don't have to, no hoods, no wiring, no nothing. We should just be able to plug and play. So that's exciting as well. So appreciate Tim's work on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're down to committee reports.
Never Sweat Recreation Board, we have our next application grant application deadline, October 29th. And the meeting is 2 weeks later on November 9th, and that's when they will award grants. So that's coming right up. Anything?
Good committee report. We did have a meeting for the Adult Education Cyber Center. Melanie has resigned her position for the CWC, her CWC position. So we've been working with CWC. They have started advertising that position available. So if you know of anybody that would be into that position, have them get a hold of CWC. We were talking earlier.
Closed on Friday.
What's that?
Their application.
I'm sure it'll stay open now.
Okay.
Lost it.
Advertisement.
The job description. There you go. The job description, and it is in there. Okay. Yeah. To continue with that. So we have that going. We are also really pushing our focus towards adult education, so that we can definitely be using our mill levy to its fullest. So we've been spending a lot of time on job descriptions and where we kind of want to see it go. So the issue we have is finding instructors. So if anybody out there knows anybody that wants to put on a class or can offer something, we encourage them to go visit with Roxanne. The other thing that we're going to really start pushing and advertising is with adult education, it doesn't necessarily have to be a class. It can be a training of some sort. So I'd say let's just use search and rescue. If they have, an instructor in mind that's out of state and they really want this training and they can come in, they can come to the cyber center and give us that information, and they can use the cyber center. We have money to pay for instructors. We really want to use this for some sort of educational purposes. So we're kind of trying to get the word back out there. It's been kind of down in the swamps for a while, but we're really pushing to revamp, bring things in, let people know that money is there for adult education, regardless of how it's used. If we need to bring in instructors, we'll pay them. However that wants to work. So if anybody has any ideas or classes or even just certifications that they need, definitely get a hold of Roxanne and let us utilize that money in that building for that. So we are planning on having another open house when we get the new CWC director in place, to kind of show off the new building where they're at, and hopefully do kind of a meet and greet thing. So as soon as they get that accomplished, we'll be organizing that. So, and I think that's it for down and dirty of it.
Are you guys in charge of the GED program? as well?
They do, yes. Melanie had been working with a HiSET teacher, and that's the new GED program. They call it HiSET.
Okay.
He or she has one student in there right now, and she will finish that up, but that person is retiring also. So they will be on the lookout for another HiSET instructor.
Oh, okay.
So, and CWC is absolutely willing to help with that too. We've really tried to form a better bond with CWC about what we need, what we want. So they're also going to help us with that and work on it. So, but really up here, it's just getting, trying to find out what people need, what they want, and then us trying to help find instructors to facilitate that. So any ideas, definitely give Roxanne a call or one of us a call and let us know. But we're working hard.
Been a BOCES meeting last Tuesday. I was on my way through Nebraska, coming back to visit y'all. Got stuck in Cheyenne for the day.
Love it.
And then nice. But the gist of it is we have about $51,000 in our fund balance. We are still working on the math class proposal, a math class to teach math teachers how to teach more excitedly, to get the kids more excited in the lower levels, basically. We completed our amended budget, and they're currently updating all the policy manuals, one policy at a time.
Facilities, go ahead.
I didn't have anything.
Facilities met, kind of got an update on where we are with some of our projects. One of the things that we spent some time talking about this week is we have some stuff that is probably lumped into one of three categories. A, it's of value still. B, it's probably recycle value. And C is dumpster value. And we are starting to take a look at the prospect of trying to get to the board a list of those items that for sure in the first two categories, because they have some value yet. An example might be a piece of equipment. It could be some of the electronic equipment that we no longer use. Where if you're a recycler, you might get the copper out of it. If there is something of value, you might try to put that out, and somebody purchases it in some form or fashion. Any of those two, I don't have the authority to dispose of that. Surplus property. Some of that stuff, third category, is, for example, a chair that's maybe missing the back, it's busted. Well, it's junk, so it needs to be gotten rid of. But anything that is of even marginal value, we need to take a look at. So one of the things that we spent some time in conversation about is looking at, and I've had some experience with some online auctions where they come out, they take a picture of the merchandise or whatever it is that you're trying to sell, and then they publish it as part of a government auction. Now, typically in an auction, there's a fee, an auctioneer's fee that has to be paid. In the one that I'm familiar with, because we're a government entity, the 10% fee is paid by the buyer. So if Jerry, and I don't know that it's Jerry because the bidders are by number. They're all over the place. But say Jerry gets a bid for a particular piece of equipment. He pays, if the bid is $500, he pays the 10% on top of that. The district gets $500. There's a window of time where if a buyer is interested in looking at the whatever, he or she can come in, we set that up. Otherwise, on the day of the auction, you watch the bidding process go. The auction closes at a certain time, and then that process then converts to a situation where, in that example, Jerry buys that piece of equipment. He comes to the office, he presents a copy of his driver's license and a copy of the invoice. I make a copy of those. We give that piece of equipment to Jerry. He takes off down the road and he gets that. Then after, it's typically within 2 weeks, we'll get that check from the online service for that piece of equipment. I have also had it where Jerry purchases the equipment, never shows up. We still get that because his bid is tied to a card. And so we get that. There have been a couple of instances, and I told these guys that, there have been a couple of instances where we sold the same thing 2 or 3 times before we finally got somebody to come pick up whatever it was. We've sent buses to Mexico. We've sent food service equipment to Canada. So it covers a pretty broad spectrum. Fire departments, cities, counties, they'll have old trucks or buses or whatever. So we've got some stuff that I think we need to get rid of. We need to get it cleaned out. So in the next couple of months, we'll be trying to work through that particular process as part of that facilities group. So.
Anything else for committees?
Lori, do you have anything?
No, thanks. I don't have anything to report.
Do we have any visitor comments?
No.
Can we go to administrative reports?
Yeah, so you've got both of our Tad's report and mine out there. Quickly run through mine. We had the state fire marshal come pay us a visit, and we've got some corrective action for some things that need to be done. Just like an audit, anytime the auditor's in the building, they're going to find a little something. So fire marshal's no different. We're really fortunate, and I think it speaks to the quality of care and attention that our staff have placed on our facilities. Most of these are really, really minor. It's moving a table with some computers. It's replacing some bulbs and emergency lights that need to be done. So it's for the most part, I think things that we can handle, we can get done. They'll come back around December 7th for the revisit to make sure that we did what we said we were going to be able to do. So that piece of it's gone, I think, really pretty well. Staffing update, we talked a little bit about custodians. That puts us at 3, which is really exciting, I think. Bus drivers, we continue to advertise for bus drivers. We've got a couple of individuals that I think will get in the pipeline for the training aspect of it to get that process started, and look to get that going soon. I've had one inquiry for the Transportation and Operations Director, and I've had one internal candidate that's applied for that position. So that process is going to continue through the 25th, I think, of the month. And then we'll kind of see where that whole piece goes and get that onboarding going. Legislative update, highlighted a couple of things. The JEC and JAC, the Education Committee and Appropriations Committee met. There seems to be some conversation about some adjustment. I don't know if you saw in the paper, for a period of time, Wyoming was kind of a front runner when it came to salaries. And some of that is going to be important if we're trying to think about retention and recruitment. But in recent years, that gap that we enjoyed has since shrunk. What's coming at kind of a challenging time from the state aspect, because you've got all the work that's been done and conversations around the mineral rights and so on and so forth. So I don't know where that's going to go. It's just a committee. The committee on a 9-4 vote advanced that forward. We got a long ways to go before we'd ever see any of that. You probably saw on the news, there'll be I think stands to be enough votes individuals who voted for a special session, talk about the vaccination mandate. So I look for that to occur. And just this week, we saw the governor's executive order of unemployment insurance tax break, that they're going to take some of the COVID dollars and set that into motion. One of the things that I told Amanda about tonight late, today we got information about the ARP funds being released. So we've got an idea of what our allocation is going to be. We think preliminarily it's a little bit more than what we got, or what we were slated to get originally, but we've got to set aside of that chunk. We've got to set aside 20% for efforts to bridge that learning gap and help bring kids up to grade level, those efforts. And so there'll be about $325,000 or so estimated there that we'll need to develop a plan to how we're going to do that. There have been some good ideas around what that could look like, but until we knew for sure what that was going to be, some of that planning hasn't taken place, because we needed to know what we were up against. But like I said, that just got released tonight late. We just got the email, so we'll start picking that apart, start taking a look at that, and you'll look forward to having additional follow-up information from us as that comes to light. So that's all I had, Jerry.
Any questions about Tad's report? All right. Let me go to financial report.
So tonight, when we look at expenditure report by function and summary, I put a note on this report because what I was finding with it is like, if you looked at the total general fund expenditures, because we weren't, if we use a different function number sometimes, if I don't have that selected in the report, you're missing $5,000 or whatever that is. So from now on, you're going to see a report that has all the function codes in it, And there will be lots of zeros because we don't use them all, but that way we ensure that you're seeing our total budget. That also helps me as I'm monitoring the budget to make sure we're doing budget amendments as we need to in each of the funds. So making sure that matches up is important. So that's all that note was about. Let's see here. So this month, our expenditures are supposed to be at around 25%. So when we look at the percentage of budget, as you go down, you see things are right where we need them to be. Some of them are a little bit over. We talk about that every month where, we might have in the superintendent's budget or your budget, we might have board docs due. And that's 100% of a line item. So your budget is gonna be higher for a month or two until it kind of evens itself out. So that's pretty typical. But I don't see anything in this report that concerns me. I see one of them is at 45%, but like I said, a lot of our expenditures are the first half of the school year, and the other half of the school year, not a lot happens, so it kind of evens itself out. If you look at the bottom of page 2, the overall percentage for general fund is 16%, so that's good. The other thing you're going to find is another change that you're going to see probably in the next month. I'm gonna start budgeting in the special revenue account. In the past, we've not done that because it's a lot of work, but we have found through the audit this year that it's really imperative, especially with the increased money we're getting through the state, to be able to kind of pay attention to certain things. So I wasn't able to get it in there before I shared this report with you this week. But by next month, it will be in there. And you'll see I kind of did the same. I made sure major maintenance was in there. Made sure capital projects, we actually will have, I think maybe next month, a budget amendment that's gonna come in to kind of straighten some things out that I found as we were working on the audit. Fund 50, all of that is doing good. Fund 52, rental property management, that's going good as well. Fund 80, so you'll see that there is a budget in Fund 80 now for activities. In the past, we've not done that, but again, the auditor encouraged me to get it put in because otherwise it's harder to track it. When you're focusing on just the general fund, it's really easy to miss a budget amendment in that throughout the year, especially when we have in this new world of COVID so much going on. And then adult education as well. Any questions about that report? And then just the balance sheet. I forgot to highlight the cash balance for you guys this month. But everything, like I said, is going well. Everything's going as expected this time of the year. I think we talked last month or at the last meeting about concerns I had about having enough cash on hand to float all of the special revenue and grants coming in. And with our current system, things are going well with that. We might have some issues when we get into those ARP funds, but if we continue managing things the way we are, one of the things, the strategies that I have had, not sure what other school districts are doing, but every grant allows us, through the state, allows us to have indirect costs. And I'm actually pulling 100% of any indirect costs that I can out of the grant. And what that does is, so say your Title I allows $40,000, I'm drawing all of that down and that money stays in the special revenue account, so it helps to float the cash on hand so that we can pay the bills and keep doing. Our ESSER has probably $80,000 worth of indirect costs that we can keep on hand for those things. We will have to deal with it at some point, and I'll work with our auditor to figure that out as the funding decreases and we've used it up. We may have to figure out how we're going to move it from special revenue back over to the general fund. But it'll be one of those things that we could probably identify it as a capital construction or special depreciation transfer. And so that way we don't get dinged on it in any way. So, yeah. So that's all I have. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, discussion items.
Yeah, first item on the list, upcoming training sessions, work sessions. So I just wanted to see if we had any takers. I think Lori was thinking that she might be able to attend the WSBA conference in Casper. We just need to know, it's the 17th through the 19th. We just need to know so we can get you registered and get a room set aside. So if you could let us know maybe by the end of the week if that's something that's in your wheelhouse and you want to participate in, would like to get that squared away for you. Next item, the NSBA. Appreciate Lori giving me a heads up on that. I think we've got an early registration that has opened or will open here shortly for the conference in April. Last year you participated virtually, and while I think that there is going to be some capacity for that, I think they are planning for an in-person event, not necessarily strictly virtual. So you might put that on your radar as well. And if that's something that you're interested in, we'll in the next couple of in the coming months we'll get that squared away so we can get arrangements made for that. Tonight I also have a little light reading for you. So this is the start of your homework for our retreat on the 2nd. And so I've got that table of contents in there and got that all laid out. This is your document, your notebook. You can make all the chicken scratches on that you would like. There are some things that there's a couple of items, number 11, section 12, that would require some thought, some brainstorming on your part before we get to the 2nd. So we've kind of given you a list of some things to do under those varied sections, but just a little reading, some stuff to kind of get your mind around what our mission will be on the 2nd. So I expect that everybody will be prepped. You'll be able to probably, Sean will have this all memorized by tomorrow morning.
I already read it.
It's already done. So I
That's really true.
mic drop. So I don't, and I was telling Sandra, I'm very grateful for her work. She helped me put all that together and get that prepped once I kind of had all my piles scattered out. So I don't know that there will be any additions, but I did leave myself a little bit of a grace window under section 15, which is other. So if I find that there's something, oh man, I should put that there, I will make sure that you have that in advance of the 2nd. But needless to say, you have a little light reading, little light homework to get done before the 2nd. So
I have a question. Does anyone have any? I'll make you guys dinner. Is there anything you can't eat or won't eat? I won't make lima beans. I'll tell you that right now.
I think we all want seafood, lobster.
I don't do fish.
You don't do fish?
Smells.
Lasagna? Something like that work? Vegetable meat? That wasn't the case on the last board. I messed up.
I thought you said lobster. Did you
put
say
lima
lobster?
beans in there.
Lobster lasagna, I don't care.
Lobster lasagna.
I thought it was a vegetarian.
No, we're fine.
Can we bring something, Sharon?
No, I got it. No problem. And then one other thing, back up.
Yes, sir.
We need a WSBA delegate.
Yeah, and we'll do that down under
sorry.
9. So we've got an action item underneath there as well. So
So
For
are
that
we
purpose.
at your place
Yep,
for
up
the
the
board
house.
retreat?
If you don't know the house, it's probably, you can park up by the main house or just park in the loop somewhere. You're all gonna be coming and going at the same time, so.
I would-
Find out where that is.
I would also say that if you get into this and you have questions in advance, don't hesitate to shoot them my way, and either A, we'll get them answered for you right then and there, or we'll maybe make those part of a conversation piece for the evening of the 2nd. So
Do we have a time on that? Are we starting
4
early?
4 o'clock.
Okay.
Takes about 20 minutes to come down dirt road, so.
Okay, I'll still have to take off work early, so, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Next item is just a pandemic protocol update. I tried to kind of encapsulate a little bit of where we are. Grateful to have Anna here. She's got some information that is kind of outlined, sort of a snapshot in time of where we are as a district. And I think a couple things that I'd like to just touch base on. Obviously, we have now individual grade levels that have saw some quarantine time and are seeing quarantine time for close contacts. We've also had some staff impacted by that piece as well. And one of the things, that it's different this year, I think, than last year. We've had some conversations about it looked different for us a year ago because we didn't really see that positive case. We didn't see a ton of close contacts in quarantine. So it's a little different. I think if you were making some kind of comparison, also in trying to be reflective, I think, of the situation. When our Smart Start plan was put into place, we kind of hit that 5% as the mark, roughly 10 positive cases, and that was looking at any one particular time. I think the one thing that probably in hindsight it didn't, and I don't know how it could have been different, just because you don't know what that ripple effect is going to be, but it didn't really address close contacts, right? If we've got a class that has to go out because of a single positive case. I commend our staff because I think they've done a heck of a job in those instances where we have sent students home. They've prepped work. They've got that shipped off. They are working to remain in contact with and trying to keep that connectivity piece going. Certainly check in and check out. And that, I think that has been good. I also think that we know that all of that work that's put together to get that material can't be the same as being physically in the presence of that teacher in the classroom and doing that. And so, this is the kind of stuff that keeps administrators up. We're trying to brainstorm. Coaches are good at, well, if I do this and I move this piece on the game board, I can maybe exploit that opportunity and so on. And administratively, this has been no different, right? And this, have I really got it all? Have I really kind of thought through the pieces? And I tried to lay out sort of some options, and then try to think also about if we're thinking about, if it's a good thing, bad thing, or indifferent, what does that look like? And, obviously an option is to stay the course. We just stay exactly doing what it is, follow the plan. If we have cases, close contacts, we stick with that. And I think what we're finding right now in the situation that we're in, where does that significant tipping point hit? How many classes or how many staff? In my mind, where does something happen that we've got to shut the doors? I know that Lori sent me a note, and a district not to be mentioned, but they had to shutter their doors for, I think, a period of a week to try to get things under control. You could amend your plan, whether that's changing that 5% figure. It could be changing some provisions of some of the action steps. It could be that based upon, even though we're not at that 5%, maybe we want to move for a period of time. We want to move to that phase 2, given the circumstances. There's been a shift there. You could close the school for a period of time. Personally, I think that is the poorest of the options, and that is the very, very last thing I would ever advocate for. And there's some rational reason for that, right? So one, it assumes that everybody stays home, and that's not the case. At instances where individuals have been at some of the businesses around taking kids, and whether that's eating establishments or other things, it assumes that everybody stays home. You know, if I got to scramble for childcare, might be that I gotta send my kids over to Aaron's place because I gotta work. You know, they're just circumstances, right? And I think realistically, you've kind of got two different pieces. You've got the younger students who maybe the childcare in that example that I shot out is maybe the issue, but then you've got the older students. And if I'm a high school student, I'm going to do what high school students are going to do. If I can get together with my buddies and go do something, I'm going to get together and go do something. You know, and I think it also assumes that in that example, everybody from a community standpoint does what they need to do. And it's hard for us to think that that's where that's going to happen. Masks are a conversation piece. You know, do you strongly require? Do you put a protocol? If we have that, Sandra and I are within a 6-foot radius. We're talking about the board agenda, and I'm positive we're both wearing masks. Sandra doesn't have to close contact. So it would help us from that close contact perspective if we take a look at that. The flip side to that is that, you know, I know that they're not popular. I know that individuals want capacity to choose and those kinds of things. I mean, that you'd have to be really deep under a rock to not know that exists. But the reality is that that's part of that trade-off. If that's something that that's selected, you know, and there's other variables. You know, mask, no mask. Some of it goes to, you know, if I'm vaccinated or not vaccinated and all those kinds of pieces. But at the end of the day, that mask piece is part of the tools. Whether you choose to do them or not is part of that discussion that we would have. And then, you know, I think we've had, and I want to engage in a conversation if there's other things that I'm missing. You know, I'm not a doctor and I don't know all the things that I need to know, but if there's some pieces that I'm just not seeing for whatever reason, what is that? And I think I've kind of put that into the other piece, and maybe you guys have some of those suggestions. You know, and I don't know what you are hearing from the community as a whole. Excuse me. Certainly, each of you individually have varied interactions at various times and in various states, and I would, if I were a betting man, I'd put a bill down that says that they're pretty diverse from one end of the spectrum clear to the other end of the spectrum. It probably doesn't necessarily help you with any of the kind of decision making that needs to be. You know, from a numbers standpoint, we kind of had some candid conversations back in September. And we're really, from a pure and simple raw data standpoint, really not any different in terms of maybe necessarily the positive cases. But what we didn't have in September was that close contact piece. So, you know, I think that, you know, again, I struggle because I think that there's a lot of pieces, and that this is not a clear cut, clear, easy. I don't know from a medical standpoint that we're any further 60 days later than where we were 60 days ago.
18 months ago.
Or, but I think it's incumbent upon us to at least have that dialogue and that conversation and understand that, where we are is where we are the best place that we can be in, given what we know today. And so, like I said, Anna's done a nice job. She's put some information together. You've got copies of that in front of you that give you that accurate snapshot. We've been transparent with the posting of information to our website as far as cases are concerned. I guess I just wanted the board to have some dialogue and some conversation. And if there was something that I'm missing as the leader in this district, if there's a different path or track that we ought to be taking, that this will be that opportunity to have that conversation.
Love to hear from Anna before we talk.
So I just put together just facts. That's all I'm really bringing. I'm not really fond of reading everything I gave you, but if you have any questions, just please let me know. Let me see here.
Well, thank you for the facts. That helps.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently we have 3 cases active in the school. They're students, and we believe with contact tracing that it was all from one case, one event. Of course, I don't think anyone knows for sure when somebody is in contact, but really common sense says that that's how it happened. So, let's see, we have, one thing I didn't do is tell you the dates of the other classes are coming back, so let me pull that up real quick. So we have the entire 3rd grade coming back on Thursday. Friday.
This week?
Yes.
Is that 14 days?
10 days.
It's 10 days. We can follow the 10-day rule if they're asymptomatic. And we have been following the 10-day quarantine rule.
But that's not in our plan. Our plan says 14.
I updated our policy and procedures. I probably did not go back and update that plan, so that is my fault.
Because I think the board would have to approve that.
Well, that is what we've been doing. Those are the recommendations from the Wyoming Department of Health that we've been following since day 1.
Okay. That's not in that flow chart either.
And that's actually a little humor because I was reading through that, and somebody that tests positive is only out for 10 days, but then the kids that don't test positive, we keep them out for 14, according to this paperwork.
Unless they're asymptomatic.
Well, I'm just reading this, and it just says if they're, I just thought that was interesting that we keep out the kids that didn't test positive for 14 days, but the kids that did test positive, they only have to be out 10 days.
That's been a source of contention for the last 18 months.
I just thought that was interesting when I was reading that, but go ahead, sorry.
No, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't make sense. And honestly, a lot of this doesn't. There's so much black and white, and I don't know, it's not black and white is what I meant to say, and I tend to be a black and white person, so it's really hard for me to.
So Anna, explain that to me again then. So the 10 days, everybody can come back after 10 days?
Absolutely
No.
not. If they're asymptomatic from their last day of exposure or the test date, they don't come back. It's about 10 days from the day she got tested. Let's just say you're asymptomatic when you got tested. So we go from the test date. She's 10 days from the test date. Her children are 10 days from that test date. Nobody has symptoms the whole time. It happens all the time. So, her children are out 10 days if they're asymptomatic that whole time. One of her children developed a stuffy nose, fever, congestion, body aches, whatever it is. They'd be out for the 14 days.
That doesn't really make sense either, because asymptomatic people can still have COVID and be infectious.
Absolutely, and I don't make rules,
So-
I'm just following what her.
I'm just confused because it is not. in
The
our
reasoning
plan.
behind that is that a typical virus will run a course from 10 to 14 days. So if they are asymptomatic by day 10, chances are they're good to go. They give that 14 days because, this has been a thorn in my side for the last however long now, almost 2 years, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. So what they've done to cover themselves is they've said 10 to 14 days because that's a typical virus, okay? So, and we're even telling people too, if you've been exposed to somebody and between day 5 and 7, you haven't had symptoms and you don't test, there's so much out there. I mean, it changes every dang day. But they've put in this 10 to 14 day rule for that kind of same thing is that, somebody's asymptomatic and they were exposed. Well, if they don't have it by day 10, chances are, at least at this time, they're good. Now, if somebody develops symptoms, say 3 days into it, they're covering themselves for that 14 days because they don't know when exactly that started. So they could have had it for 3 days prior and they're going to go for 10 days. And that's where they get that 14-day window to just kind of protect themselves kind of thing. It doesn't make any sense. It never has made any sense. But that's where that's come from, is they're looking at typical viral patterns, which run usually 7 to 14 days. So they've thrown out 10 to 14 to say, you're going to quarantine for that long because you should, by any virus standards, be totally over it by then in that 10 to 14 day window. So most places have stuck to the 10-day window because the 14 didn't make a whole lot of sense. And that was, like Anna said, that's just for those ones that maybe in that 10 days develop symptoms that they push to 14, just to kind of give them that extra 4 days. Trust me, it doesn't make any sense and it hasn't for 2 years, but that's where that comes from, is they're looking at typical viral patterns.
I understand your explanation, that makes sense. However, it is not in our Smart Start plan
Correct.
at
No.
all. And it is not on the Wyoming, what is this, Department of Health flow chart. And so I don't know how we got there.
If you go
So- I'm just saying that I think the board would have had to pass that and change it on here. We need
But
to
didn't
talk
we
about
say
that.
we were going to follow the state? I thought that was in our.
That's right here. That's
So if
the
you
flow chart.
go to the
Right.
links that I linked into the document, it's K-12 investigation graphic.
What does that mean? What is the investigation?
It's the document that I linked. It's on page 1, the bottom of page 1.
Yeah, I did see that, but I'm just saying that it's not part of our protocol.
Well, that you asked,
So
where
we
we got
need-
that, that's where we got it.
I have
do
seen that
understand what you're saying.
investigation
Yep,
piece.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, and I'm just saying that maybe the board needs to either go with the 14 days or change this plan so that it is the same as what we're doing.
Yeah.
This plan says 14-day quarantine, that's it.
I
In
think
2
the,
places it says that.
I think the other thing
So I
that
don't
we,
know, we just need to make them both the same.
I agree.
we also made sure that when we put that document out, that was a fluid document. And there is going to be some evolution of that as it comes about, so.
But when there
And
is
that could be-
pollution, we have to vote on that.
And it does say under isolation quarantine, positive cases isolate for 10 days, no fever, 24 hours. So we just need to make it positive cases and asymptomatic close contacts. That would be an easy way, because it is in there and it does say per the Wyoming Department of Health. So we do have it in there. We're just gonna have to,
Not under the
Again.
quarantine section, we don't.
yeah, isolation and quarantine.
So
Positive
keep
cases
reading
isolate for 10 days and have no fever for 24 hours without fever reducing medication per the Wyoming Department of Health. So, like Steve said earlier, we're just gonna have to look at this and make it more clear, actual positive cases versus close contacts, because really, I mean, if it's a close contact after 10 days, we have 14 days, but it does say 10 days, Wyoming Department of Health.
But
and
in
that's what
our
people-
plan, it says close contacts of a confirmed case will be quarantined for 14 days after the first day of exposure and may
Right.
return to school if they have no symptoms.
So we would just need to
Period.
make that
That's all it says right now.
in conjunction with if they're actually positive, because it doesn't, if you're positive and you're out for 10 days, it doesn't make any sense if you're close contact and not positive that you're out for 14, which again, that's how it's always been. So
Yeah, as part of possible action, if there's a better language that needs to be amended,
probably-
that could be done under
Yeah.
that action item at the, under below
yeah,
there.
I
So,
could definitely see making both of those fluid, so we don't have one thing in one spot and one thing in another, certain
Agreed.
amount of days. I think we do need to change that to where the close contacts and the actual positive cases per the Wyoming Department of Health be 10 days.
Yeah.
Um,
I think we want to represent what we have, what our staff has consistently
doing.
followed.
Yeah.
That is the practice that is approved by Wyoming Department of Health.
Correct.
So,
I would agree with that.
Anna,
Yes.
so the cases that are positive, are those things that you've tested for, or they get tested at the clinic, or are we allowing
varies.
home tests?
It varies.
Okay,
Um,
I'm just curious because I just feel like if somebody takes a home test and then we quarantine the entire kindergarten, I mean, I'm just making that up because I don't know. But we couldn't quarantine the 20 kids in the kindergarten because of a home test. Wouldn't we really want, I mean, maybe that's something that we need to probably clarify in here too, is it needs to be an actual,
PCR test.
yeah, it needs to be an actual whatever that is, because either you take it or it does it at the clinic. Just because I feel like we get excited, and my kid's not feeling good, I'm gonna run up and get that home test and hey, they're positive. I don't know how accurate those are, but I just feel like it needs to be probably a little bit more.
Well,
controlled.
PCR tests, they have a longer turnaround time, so you're looking at 3 days to get the results
I see.
back on the PCR tests. Rapid tests are, 20 to 25 minutes. I offer both at the school right now. So when you're looking at a PCR test, you're looking at a child being out up to 3 more days. So there's that to consider.
Okay,
And like with any lab test, I mean, Aaron, what's the percentages of false positives?
18%.
I mean, so there's always that margin of error.
Mhm.
Now, the other thing
PCIs
is,
are more reliable.
yeah, if you do a rapid test per the state of Wyoming, if you do a rapid test and you come up negative, they automatically have to send that to a state lab for confirmation because they're trying to narrow that margin of error. So I don't know about the home tests because those are a fairly new thing, but I know if you get a rapid test done and it does come back negative, they should be, or at least are supposed to be, sending that off to the state lab for confirmation because they are trying to narrow that window of error because it is like 18%
Which direction is it? 18% false.
false negative.
What about false positive?
There's a whole lot of those too.
Do you know what percentage that would be?
I haven't heard that one.
But we think that 18% of people take the test and they're negative.
It could be a false
Could
negative.
still be positive.
And so that's why they're sending them for confirmation, more or less to confirm if it really is true. I had a case today, husband, wife, both tested on the rapids. The one with symptoms was negative, the one without symptoms was positive, and their doctor said, go do it again. So they're, and it's varies so much that, the problem is they're still fairly unreliable. And that's just the nature of the beast. So, doing rapids versus doing PCRs, I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference. Like Anna says, it does take up to about 3 days, depending on the lab that you send it to. I mean, if they're getting bombarded with COVIDs, I've had them take up to 5 days. So it seems to be a little bit more accurate test, but again, they also have a margin of error too. So the test itself, I don't know if it would be worth doing one or the other. That's when we kind of fall back on symptoms more than anything. But obviously, if you come up with a positive test in any of those, you know, it's your due diligence to let them know and to treat it like a positive until proven otherwise. And that's where that 10 days comes in. If you haven't shown symptoms in 10 days, by 10 days, that virus should have run its course and you're at least not contagious anymore. You may still have symptoms, but you're not contagious anymore. The other margin of error with that is there is studies out there that show once you have done a nasopharyngeal test for COVID and come up positive, you could show positive for up to 3 months. So if I test positive for COVID, I get completely over it, but I still have the sniffles or the cough, the lingering cough for 3 months. And at month 2, I test again just to see, I could still be positive from that previous case. And a lot of times they're taking that as a new positive, but it's really not. So like I said, the craziness of all of this is there are no great answers. There are no great set in stone. I mean, and it changes, like Anna knows, it changes every single day. I mean, a lot of the main parts have stayed the same, you know, like the 10 days, the 14, you know, a lot of that, but everything changes. I mean, I get people sent home. I have a stuffy nose. My boss made me get a rapid test and I'm positive, but I was positive a month ago. Well, we can't really call that a new case because it can stay for up to 3 months in your nose. I mean, it's just, there are no black and white answers, unfortunately, in this, at least yet. So
Anna, are all the tests then reported to the state or just the PCR?
all of them.
All of them that you do? Are they both negative and positive results? Oh, just the positives.
Amanda had a question.
I'm just curious on what you just said. Does that mean if you're still testing positive that you're still contagious 3 months later?
No.
Okay. No, you
Just
actually
don't have
take
some
some
virus.
quarantine if you tested positive or had COVID. You is it 90?
Is it the 90
It was
days?
just 90 days that
It is still 90 days.
you could test
so-
positive for up to 90 days. Yeah.
But that's also the past that some have talked about, is that if I got COVID today, I'd have a 90-day pass where, because I've had it and come back, then if something comes up at some point or close contact, I get a pass on that deal.
And that's why, you know, right now there's a lot of talk, and you'll see it in the news and all of this. There's a lot of talk now circling around about natural immunity. And that's where they're going now, is because, you know, there's a lot of places that are saying if you have had it, you can prove you've had it. They're going back now around to natural immunity. How long is that? They're looking more at that, like how long does it last? You know, do I need to do anything different? And there's a lot of that coming around with, I don't want to get into it, but with the vaccine stuff is, you know, how long can I trust my natural immunity before I have to get the vaccine and vice versa, you know? So there's still so much going on. We have antibody tests, but again, there's a margin of error in that. You know, they used to say that your natural immunity, you get COVID and your antibodies last 90 days. Well, I'm a year out. I still have antibodies. I test myself. So there's just data all over the place. And unfortunately, it doesn't go in one direction. It goes in 50. So, I mean, I wish there was like black and white answers because it would make things so much easier. And I know Anna's that way too, but you know, we're rolling with the punches right now, unfortunately, and there's still not a whole lot more answers than there was 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. So.
Anna, have you had any parents who have signed on for asymptomatic testing? No, we've had some
So,
staff, but.
Yes, we have had, let's see. I tested the first 2 students I have tested in, this week. I tested a 3rd grader, 4th grader, and a pre-K. But I have 4 assigned consents. 5. I have 3 parents that signed ahead of time, just in case. So not great numbers.
So it just became available to students, correct? A week ago or something?
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago.
This will be the second week.
That's great.
Ish,
It's
maybe.
available.
Yeah.
And all the parents know, right?
Yeah.
Yep, that information was sent out, was included with my letter that
Right.
went out to
That's on October
families, so,
6th.
yeah. Wanted that to be something that they could have at that point, so.
And the consent form is available on the website. I've had copies in my office, of course. Let's see, so we will update and fix the smart center plan too, but we'll need to on that. Any questions about quarantine before we go forward?
I just have one question, and it's just out of curiosity. Tina had mentioned here a while back that most of the classes have assigned seats, so that we can kind of keep track of how close contact the students are. But didn't we did the third grade and the kindergarten, the whole class. So,
Because a close, are you finished? I'm sorry.
that's right. I'm just curious, how
There's no
how
masks.
we view the close contact there.
Okay, so a close contact is anyone 6 feet apart or less for 15 minutes or more.
Mhm.
So you know as well as I do, at any given time, that's gonna happen in the school day. The only way you can get out of quarantine is if both people are masked, the positive case and the close contact. So we don't mask at school, and the close contact definition, that being said, there's no possible way to guarantee that didn't happen. So for safety, we have to quarantine the whole class. There's no way not to. I have copies of the seating charts, so I can identify things that way, but honestly, without masking everybody, it has to be done at this point. It just has to.
There's
Well,
too
and
much,
if- well, and
there's
if
too
you're
much
gonna send-
interaction.
Yeah, and if you're gonna send half a class home, then that teacher, by then, like you said, send all of them home and let them all do the same thing. And it seems like it's, at least whole isolated groups versus I have 10 at home and then I'm trying to keep track of, and I have 15 in the classroom that I'm trying to keep track of. It just seems more.
Well, and in our
through.
classrooms, I don't know if you've been in them, but there's some classrooms that they just don't have the room. It's
Right.
impossible as a class of 22 to be 6 feet apart.
All the
For a
time.
kindergarten class, it's not feasible. So there's that, and,
Well, to send a third grade class home for 10 days, but their siblings that are in 5th grade can come back the next day is absolutely, makes no sense like everything else.
and that goes back to not quarantining the contacts of a close contact. So, Jack's in school, let's just say Lydia and Jack are in school. Lydia had a close contact in her class. She had a positive case. She's a close contact of the positive case. Jack's a close contact of Lydia, Jack's a contact of Lydia, who's a close contact. He doesn't get quarantined. Make sense? Absolutely not.
Until she tests positive, if she tested positive, then he would become a
I know
close
what we're working with, guys.
Mhm.
And it's
Yep.
impossible to make a good call. Some days you do the best you can every day.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Anna, well, maybe I shouldn't even ask this, but in your opinion, if everybody was wearing masks in the elementary school, would we have had less quarantined kids?
I don't feel comfortable with giving my personal opinion. I don't, I'm sorry.
You don't?
Answer that.
I think,
I can't,
Well, okay,
I-
just can't.
I think from the standpoint of answering that question, you go back to the example that I gave you with Sandra. Sandra and I are working to create the board agenda. I'm positive. She and I are both masked. She's not a close contact. So from the standpoint of that example, if you put that into a classroom, then from a factual perspective, I'm in that 3rd grade class and I'm the guilty party that's the positive case. If the teacher and the students that are in that class are masked, then they would not have that close contact designation because we are
right.
both masked.
I guess that's what I was trying to.
Yeah, and that's the facts we're working with. And just, on a side note, we have people that have been masked and vaccinated that have tested positive.
There are breakthrough
So
cases.
you got that involved too, so. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or unprofessional, I just won't give my personal opinion, so.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I asked it that way.
No, it's fine, it's fine.
Nope. Steve answered kind of where I was.
Perfect, good, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on anything? I made that document.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is that Okay, you ready?
Go ahead, Lori.
It's hard on the, okay, it's hard on the phone, and I apologize if you've already answered it or talked about it, but I can't quite hear everything everyone's saying. I'm curious how we're interpreting when the 10 days start, because our SMART plan or our pandemic plan doesn't specify that it's at the onset of symptoms or it's 10 days from the test for positive. So I'm curious how we're interpreting that.
Okay,
And do we need to clarify that in our pandemic plan?
Lori, can you hear me okay?
I can now, thanks.
Okay, so, I think we probably should clarify that in the plan. And what we do is if somebody has symptoms, we take it from their symptom start date. If they don't have symptoms and get tested, we take it from their positive test date.
I think that's a great way to handle it, and I think we should clarify that in our plan.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, Fiona?
No, just thank you for
Yeah.
everything
I know
that
you've
you've
been
done.
busy.
I know this is not an easy time for anybody, and I'm sure you and everybody in that school are feeling it. So
No, it's not.
Thank you
changing
for-
anytime soon, so
no, but-
it's the new normal.
thanks for all the hard work. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, if you have any questions, if something on that sheet doesn't make sense, it was done late this afternoon, not my best time to think, so. Just let me know, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much.
And I'm just gonna snowball real quick off Steve. We quarantine from school and that's it, and it's
Mhm.
discouraging to see what's happening when they're supposed to be quarantining. I know families struggle, I get that, but, they're taking them to work with them in public places, and I don't know, it's difficult to see that.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to get an array on anything when it's happening. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I put a plug in for our staff, Thursday night, or Friday night, Thursday night, I think, Friday, the days are running together, but, they stayed late. We found out late what the situation was with our kindergarten class. And it wasn't a question of, let's wait till Monday. Anna, Joellen, Danny, they all helped to step up and make those phone calls. I commend our staff. I place a tremendous amount of trust in my school nurse. I've always done it that way because they are the trained professional, and appreciate the fact that they're in that frontline trench with what I think is probably the best information that is available. And both previously and this year, I think it's followed in a consistent and professional manner. And I'm frustrated for them because I think that, whether it's Anna or Danny or Joellen making the phone call, there's still that voice on the other end of the phone that says, Steve, Garrett's got to be home. Here's the deal. And yet they do it. So, from a professional standpoint, I think they do a fabulous job of managing that difficult situation. But I don't know. So I guess at the end of the day, I think Anna made some notes about some modifications. If the board would choose as part of that actionable item under 9B, you can approve those modifications. Anna can recite kind of what she's got down to make sure that we've got it right, but you can make that modification accordingly. We'll put that in the Smart Start plan. So
Yeah, I think just making that date fluid for that 10-day, just because it is a little bit unclear. And in one spot we have close contacts with confirmed will be 14, but yet if you're positive it's 10. I think the 10 rule, just cleaning up. We want this to be as simple as possible. We don't want to have poor Anna going through okay, well technically you were here and here and it should be 14, but you should only be 10. If we can make this as simple as possible, although we're not dealing with simplicity at all in any of this, it's just gonna make it a lot easier for our staff to remember, for our parents to know, for, just plain and simple, keep it straight across the board.
I think my final comment is just that just as we have a community with diverse opinions, we have staff that are the same. We have some that I'm good with the course, and I have other staff that are genuinely concerned, whether it's because of their own health and wellness or their family's health and wellness or some of those pieces. So, it is imperative that I be mindful of those concerns and make sure that those are expressed as part of this conversation. So,
I just have two questions. With us quarantining whole classes like this, I think as far as, we're not talking shutting school down or anything, but I think I can probably err with everybody. Is this becoming like, has it been okay with a whole class being out, teachers still being able to kind of keep, so that's kind of my big thing. Like if you have 40 kids out of school spread out over all age ranges, that's big because now we're on totally different learning levels versus we have 40 kids out in 3 whole classrooms. Their level of learning is still essentially the same. Do you see what I mean? Like, has it been okay with whole classes going out versus, do you see what I mean?
Well, I think so. Let me try to answer it and you tell me if I've hit or missed. I think we have done in the instances that we're talking about, the 3 classes that we're talking about, I think our staff have done a whale of a job to, in this finite window, to try to get collected the best material that we can and get that sent to parents. The flip side to that is that there has been a fair response from families.
Right.
But I think that, I don't know that I could say we're okay. We did what we needed to do in the time that we needed to get it done.
Right.
But I don't know that it would be accurate to say that is the same as or as good as that 3rd grade class being with Katie
absolutely.
in that space.
Yeah.
So I think I just want to be.
It's definitely better for them all to be in school and on the same platform. I get that. But to me, it seems the lesser of 2 evils, at least the whole class is at least kind of moving along together versus, you have 2 or 3 out and 2 or 3 here. And so now we're on totally different levels of learning. I mean, we're always on different levels of learning. That's a terrible way to put it. But functioning, are we functioning that way? I guess is okay. It's not a word because nobody's okay.
Yeah. I think we're managed. Given the circumstances, we manage. But I think that it would be appropriate, if I'm a student that needs special education services, have some deficiencies and there's a hole there. If I already had that learning loss, then I've probably, if I'm in that situation, I've just dug that hole just a little bit deeper.
Right.
If I'm a good student and I've got parents and oversight at home, I'm probably more likely to be on a more level par. If that
and the only
sense.
way that would work is to have everybody in class, which we just can't right now. So that, that's my thing is like, are we doing the best we can with what we've got? And I'm sure we are because our teachers are amazing. My other question is, and really for anybody, so in our Smart Start plan, it's, you can wear a mask if you deem necessary, or if you want to. So you say there's those, few that are really concerned or have health issues or whatever. Do we have people in our school actually taking us up on, like, are they actually wearing masks in school?
Yeah, we have adults and students
Okay.
both that will.
Good.
That will have that. But I think, again, you know this.
Right.
My mask protects you.
Right.
Your mask protects me. At least that's the best logic at this point.
Right.
So to what degree that is working or not working, again, that's out of my
Right.
It's out of my realm.
Yeah, no,
but-
I just want to make sure that, you know, because you said there's some that are really concerned, and it's all spectrums. You know, you're always going to have some that are really concerned and really, really worried, and then maybe some in the middle, and then
Yeah.
some on the other end of the spectrum, like
Yeah.
no way, no way. I just want to make sure that those ones that, you know, because we tell people in the medical field all the time, the choice is yours, so you can protect yourself. So if they're really worried, are they protecting themselves in school? Are
And
they wearing masks? Are they? I don't want to, you know. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, and I think, you know, Anna can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the percentage of those wearing
Mhm.
is very small.
Okay.
So, and
Any idea what?
I just look at what's coming through, like a bus duty, for example,
Right.
and kind of walk through as we're doing walkthroughs and look at staff. And you've got a handful of staff, and you've got 10 or less, four kids that are wearing masks.
Okay.
And that's from where?
K5.
They're on K5.
I'm sorry, one.
Okay.
I mean, that are consistently wearing them. Some hang under.
I'd like to give everybody on the board a chance to just say whatever they'd like about the pandemic, about our plan, about your thoughts on whether we're going the right course, whether we should change course. I'd like to just have one person speak at a time. And we can go to whoever would like to do it. I'd like y'all to say something.
Okay.
Who would like to start?
I can start. I appreciate everyone's efforts. I appreciate the teachers' efforts. You know, I appreciate what Erin's saying. There's no, we don't know what's right and what's wrong. We're just doing the best we can with what we have. And thank you to the staff for doing that because, you know, we do all have different opinions. You got those that want masks, those that don't want masks, those that are, you know, might have health issues that they're trying to protect, and those that don't. And I just appreciate everybody's efforts there and Steve's efforts to talk about, you know, where we're at. And I think a positive would be to have it a little bit more clear there. And we can always keep tweaking things a little bit here and there if we have to. We want to keep our students in school as best we can. And
Absolutely.
And I'm grateful.
Lori, you're up next.
I really don't have anything to add. I think it's been a great discussion, but I don't have anything to add.
Junior?
I again just want to commend the staff. It's been a long road, a long haul with all of this, with no end in sight. And we appreciate the, I guess, personal responsibility that many of them have went above and beyond. And I just appreciate everybody's openness for discussion. We all have different beliefs, ideas, and just ask that we continue to go off facts and numbers and not operate on feelings and beliefs, I guess.
I would definitely, I want to see the Smart Start plan, like I said, with the update it to what Anna's been doing. We need those to be fluid documents. So changing those to 10 days, I think, would be great. I think right now, as long as we're not stressing our staff too much and stressing everybody else too much, I think staying the course with what we're doing and doing the best we can is the best we can do. I just want to throw one little bitty thing out there. We had a meeting today with WBI. We have a guy that comes up and visits with us, and if everybody knows, that's Wyoming Behavioral Institute. And we've had a great discussion today, just in general, like, what are you seeing? How are things going? And I think it's really imperative to say the world is stressed. Everybody's stressed out over this. Everybody's tired of hearing it. Everybody's seeing it. Everybody's affected by it. And our kids are too. I mean, our kids take that and they feel that. You know, when I come home from a day like I've had, or Anna comes home from a day, our kids feel that. Okay, our kids feel that stress. Something he had to say, you know, and he deals mainly with the children's side of it. And he said, you know, usually our summers are pretty good and we see kind of a downtrend in this, but depression and anxiety right now are through the roof, especially in children and even in adults, just because this is such a crazy topic and such a crazy time. So, you know, I just throw out there, the best we can do is the best we can do. We don't know what's going on. The best thing we can do is be kind, listen, you know, do exactly what we're doing, have open conversations about this, inform your kids, try to, you know, try not to put that level of stress on them. And I hope that our kids aren't too stressed out by all of this, but you know, you just have to think everybody is in the same boat right now. I mean, stress and anxiety and depression are through the roof. We see it every single day. People will come in and just say, I'm just so mad and I don't know why. So if anything else, just, you know, take that away. And if it's just a quick be kind, you know, hey, how you doing? Ask somebody how they're doing, because we're all struggling and our kids are too. So I'll get off my soapbox, but essentially, you know, I think staying the course, doing the best we can do, you know, staying open with our teachers and telling them how much we appreciate everybody in that school and what they're doing to help keep our kids happy and safe and in the classroom is the number one priority. Thank you.
I have really nothing else to add. I mean, I totally agree. We need to change the smart start plan. It's great that we offer masks that people want to wear them, don't want to wear them. That's your choice. I say we just stick with business as usual, and I think everybody's doing a great job at the school. I mean, like I said, like Junior said, stick with the numbers. We'll just, you know, go from there and see what happens. But everything seems to be working. I mean, the contact tracing is working the way it should, and you know, with 3 positive cases, I mean, that's good.
It's pretty darn good.
I mean, it's better than 30. So.
Okay. So I have a lot of thoughts about this issue, and I decided to write them down because it's just easier for me that way. So if you guys will bear with me, I'd just like to write or read what I've written. Mm-hmm. And I also have a proposal that I'd like for some changes in the plan that I have made, and I will share that with you guys too. So in preparation for this evening's pandemic discussion, I revisited the current Smart Start plan for our school district. As stated clearly in the plan, the ultimate goal is, quote, to work to ensure in-person learning takes place in the safest possible environment, unquote, within our school. It is with this goal in mind that I want to speak about and make a proposal to change the COVID-19 virus mitigation plans in our district. Many community members and parents have reached out to me with their concerns about the level of infection, transmission, and exposure that is occurring in our schools, primarily in the elementary grades at this time. I represent a group of constituents that believe that more could be done to prevent the illness and exposure that we are currently experiencing in our K-12 building. Perhaps in August, we as a school board did not realize the danger associated with the new Delta variant, which has proven to be more dangerous and twice as infectious as the COVID-19 virus of the prior year. And at that time, the school board voted to begin the school year without any mandated safeguards to protect students and staff from the virus, specifically the use of masks and distancing. We even went so far as to eliminate language in our document that suggested the importance of these practices. Both practices are strongly recommended for the safe operation of brick and mortar schools by not only the CDC, but also the Wyoming Department of Health. Experience and scientific data have proven that both masking and distancing significantly reduce infection rates. We have now issued quarantine orders to over 50 students and several staff members. The kindergarten, the first and third grades to be specific. Because no precautions are being taken in our classroom, almost all the classmates of a COVID positive case are considered close contacts and must be sent home to enter into a 14-day quarantine period. This poses many challenges for students and families, and as we have repeatedly stated, it adversely affects the level of academic learning and social emotional health of our students. If we had been requiring distancing and mask usage in these classrooms, the number of close contacts could have been significantly reduced, allowing students to stay in school. The possibility of transmission of the virus to others would be reduced as well, preventing illness in our kids and our staff members. Another issue to address is vaccination. Of the 901 patients who have been hospitalized in Wyoming since May, 97% of them were either not fully vaccinated or not vaccinated at all. Again, experience and science have shown that vaccinations work. Those that are vaccinated have a significantly reduced rate of illness and hospitalization due to the virus. To date, adults and children 12 and older are able to receive these vaccinations. However, vaccines for children 11 years and younger are not yet approved, so that layer of protection is not available for our youngest students. And furthermore, as is outlined in the pandemic data sheet that our superintendent has provided, we know that hospitals in Wyoming and surrounding states are at a maximum patient capacity. Available ICU units are scarce and pediatric units are full, and more children are now hospitalized with the virus nationally as well as in our own state than at any time prior. These are just more reasons why we must do more in our district to prevent the spread of the virus among our staff and students. So to this end, please consider the following changes and or additions to our Smart Start plan. And so some of it is just language, just strongly recommending usage of masks or vaccinations. But the one thing I will point out is that perhaps because our elementary age kids are not able to get a vaccine, maybe we ought, and we can see this spread in the elementary school, perhaps we ought to mandate masks for kids 11 and under and their staff until such time as they have the opportunity to become vaccinated. The other students strongly recommend mask usage and distancing, but they have had the opportunity to be protected, and that can be their choice. The other thing that I've added is I believe that visitors to our school building, inside our school building, visitors and guests should be asked to wear masks. We did this last year, and I think that we ought to reimpose that. So that's kind of it for me in a nutshell.
Jill, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm just kind of wondering, if we went to some sort of mask mandate, how enforceable is that? And are we willing to mandate something that we're not willing to enforce? You know, I just have to think of that girl in the Laramie High School that she refused to wear the mask, and so they gave her a out-of-school suspension and up to 3 times, and then arrested her for trespassing because she didn't abide by those laws. So I'm just wondering how far we're willing to go to, and I think I heard you say you're just recommending it for elementary and not for 12 and above. Yes. But even with elementary, or can we enforce something like that?
I don't really know the answer to that, Lori. I know that the Fremont County Sheriff can't enforce something. I mean,
He won't.
But as a school rule, we can enforce it by removing students and putting them on suspension if they choose to not follow a school rule. Just like the bullying or wearing an inappropriate.
The student refused to obey the suspension and came to school anyway.
Then our
And that's
SRO
what
could
she was
be.
arrested for, was trespassing, not because she didn't wear a mask, but because she was under suspension and she came to school and she trespassed.
And I'm hoping that
I don't know, I'm
if
just
this,
not willing to go that far myself.
I just don't think it would happen in that way. And I believe that our students are smart and our parents are smart. And if this school board and our superintendent say, hey, we need to do this for just a little bit. Look at what's happening in the last 2 weeks. I feel like the majority, if not all, families would follow what we ask them to do. I can't say that that would happen, but I would hope so.
I think that our first priority is the safety of our students and staff by far. We have said it in all of our documents. And I believe that in-class learning is our second most important. And while I know we only have 3 current students out because of COVID, we have 40 kids out of class. And Aaron, you said there's nothing we can do about that. Yes, there is. They can wear masks. And if they would have been wearing masks, they'd all be in class right now, all of them, except the 3 COVID cases. I'm not sure I believe the whole mask, I protect you, you protect me thing. I don't think it matters because the Department of Health is the one that determines that. We have to follow their rules. But if we had masks in the elementary school, our kids would be in class, and that's where they should be. And I would at least like to consider putting masks in the elementary school, as Joe said, because that's where they're at the most risk, because they cannot get vaccinated. They won't get vaccinated. High school kids knows they can make their own choices. Our faculty and staff can make their own choices.
Jerry, this is a suggestion that's really out there, but have you ever thought about voluntary testing? That we said, if you're a close contact and you would like to do one of the Q tests and you come up negative, you can come to school.
Are we even allowed to do that?
No,
I didn't think we were.
it has to be a PCR test.
I think that the other side of that is that I don't know what kind of capacity we'd have to try to accomplish that mission and do it in an effective and efficient manner to get staff and students in the building. I just don't know. If that is something we have to research, then I would be glad to do that. But I'm going to defer to the medical profession in that realm. So,
Jill's rest for plan. Yeah, I think masks should be required. People come visit us. Surely. And the other ones, vaccines are strongly recommended. Is recommending it. There's no difference. People can do what they do. That's my 2 cents worth.
Jill, I have a couple questions for you. First of all, I just want to make it clear it's not anything personal, no personal attacks. Being so strongly opinionated about wearing a mask and your mask and wearing, protecting me, everyone in this room, but you choose to sit here without wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I am fully vaccinated. I'm willing to share that.
Okay. As far as COVID being spread, it is mostly airborne, but can to an extent be spread through surfaces, contact, that kind of stuff. So being so strongly first and choosing not to wear a mask and then handing out pamphlet and papers to hand all the way around the room. Where does that? It's not a personal attack. It's just
I hope I'm
what
not
came
putting
to
anyone
mind.
in danger. I am fully vaccinated. And if I would be happy to wear a mask, and I wore a mask all year last year when none of you did, at every meeting I came to. Before I was vaccinated, I did.
I wore a mask at every meeting.
Right. So if you would feel more comfortable with me doing that, I would, but I'd also feel more comfortable if you would.
The problem is,
Just-
So-
one of us wears a
I don't know.
mask.
Just
Just
I
a
don't know.
question. I just,
Well, if one of us wears a
I don't
mask,
know
it
what to-
doesn't
How else
matter.
to respond?
I mean, maybe it makes us feel better, but it doesn't change the whole
We all
close
have to
contact
do
stuff.
that.
It comes
We
Either
all have
everyone
to
does
do
it or it doesn't matter what else happens.
Yeah, but just because you're vaccinated, you can still get it. I mean, we're gonna beat this thing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, then maybe
we're
we
gonna-
oughta,
We're gonna be here all night.
maybe we ought to move on to the action item and we can make a decision as to if we want to change anything in the plan and what those changes.
I don't think Lori had a shot at the podium just yet, did
She
she?
said she didn't have any.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's move on then. We done with this discussion for now?
yes.
We'll have it again probably in a month.
And that's.
That's
okay.
fine.
That's fine.
Access control. You gonna help us with that one, Kay?
Yeah. And it's really gonna be pretty quick. Back in May, this board approved a request for proposal to go out to vendors to have them give us a proposal to upgrade our access control system, which would be replacing all of the door locks, the electronic locks throughout this building, the main building, the bus barn, and pre-K. And so I didn't really know a lot about the door system at that time. I put out the RFP and I heard back from a few vendors that had a lot of questions that made me realize that this thing wasn't baked enough. We needed to go back and cut it. So I ended up recalling that RFP, and then over the course of the summer, I've worked with a few vendors who have come on site and they've shown me our access control system. So now I know what we have. I know I've got a full spec list of all the parts that we have that make up our access control system. So now I'm ready to put out another RFP that's going to be much more comprehensive and detailed. And so I'm essentially here just kind of to let you guys know about that. I don't think there's any action item that needs to be done with that. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I will be putting out that RFP sometime this week and hoping to get that access control project completed over the Christmas break. Does anybody have any questions about this proposal or the system or anything like that?
I just have one question about the lock system.
Yeah.
I know that there are places, everybody needs little fobs, right, to get indoors and outdoors, but there's still keypads. Is there a way we can go away from the keypads?
Yes.
Sweet.
The new systems, they have all of them away from the keypads.
Fobs
It's
only.
Just fobs.
That way you can know exactly who's coming and going and there's nobody handing out codes and you can get in here.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
So that will be part of it.
And if it's not a fob, it's an ID badge that
Something, yeah.
still records that
Yeah,
Steve
yeah,
came
that
into the
footprint.
building.
Perfect. Thank you.
No mysterious codes.
Yeah.
And I think because this body approved it initially,
Right.
I just wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to understand. And I think consensus is sufficient since you approved it initially for us to would like to do it. And I appreciate the work that he's put into it. That's been very much a labor of love, I think, for a number of hours put in to try to make sure that we have the right specs and information. I've been his here numerous times and he hasn't yet turned in a work comp claim on a cauliflower ear yet. So grateful for that. But if you're okay, we'll proceed and kind of go from there.
I appreciate you readdressing
Yeah.
it and
Thank you.
looking at it, realize we,
Yeah, I want to make sure, we're really lucky in that the current system we have, I mean, some of the locks are really close to 15 years old and they're still working. So I want to get another system that gives us that kind of longevity.
Absolutely.
So I just want to make sure we're doing it right.
Great.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
thanks for your time.
Thank you, Caleb.
Thank you.
All right, we move to action items. We need a WSBA voting delegate. And as of right now, I think Lori is confirmed she's going. Is that correct, Lori?
That is correct.
Anybody else going?
I can't be away from one.
If
How about an
I
action
go, it'll
item?
only be one day.
Lori, are you willing to be our delegate?
Sure, you bet.
I move to make Lori our delegate for the WSBA annual conference.
Any discussion, Lori?
No.
All right, thank you, Darla. We appreciate that. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, pandemic protocol
Thank you, Lori.
changes. How about we break this up into a couple action items? Because we already know we want to change the Smart Start plan. Can I have a motion on that?
Make a motion to change the Smart Start plan with the pandemic protocol, changes to the
That's been in
pandemic protocol.
place.
Okay. So just for clarity's sake, we have two parts, I think, that we were gonna amend. I just want to make sure that we've got the,
So we're
10 to 14 day
essentially, we're
quarantine.
essentially making all of those 10 days. So whether you have a positive test or whether you are a close contact, it's a 10-day quarantine. So essentially, and we can ask Anna her exact verbiage on this because she's got it in place from the WSBA. But essentially, at least my thought, as long, I don't want to be the front runner here. As long as those dates and what that document says is correlating with what she is doing with her protocol, that's what that needs to state, as far as the days.
okay? And
And I would like to specify, if we could, that it's either from symptoms or the test. Because it makes
Right.
a 2-day difference sometimes.
And that's what Anna has in her
If it's
protocol
from the
too.
onset of symptoms or from the date that you had positive.
Yes.
Okay.
So that will mirror Anna's protocol for the dates from those specific events.
Okay. And that's what,
Yeah,
Yes.
what you're
in a
saying.
nutshell.
Okay.
We can't
Very
nutshell
clear.
it. We can't nutshell
Very
this.
clearly worded. We appreciate
So,
that.
so what we'll do tomorrow is make sure that I send out, probably later in the day, send out the updated version to make
Okay.
sure that we hit it.
Would you highlight the parts that were actually changed?
Yes, I will do that.
Thank you.
Yes.
So it'll be in two places.
And
It'll be in
just
phase
for
one and
clarity, it
phase two.
appears 2 times, in
Right.
phase 1 and phase 2.
That's right.
Yep.
We have a motion.
The isolation quarantine thing.
I will
Yep.
second that motion.
We have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right. Well, did we have a second?
Yes.
Jill, you're voting nay?
I'm voting nay because I think it should stay the same at 14 days.
I just want to make sure her vote was counted. All right, do we have other motions? Jill, do you want to make motions in part or in whole?
I don't know how to. I'll make a motion that we implement the proposed updates as presented by Jill tonight in our Smart Start plan.
Do we have a second?
You can at least discuss, yeah.
We have to have a second to discuss it. Hearing no second, that motion will fail. Any other motions by the Jill?
I move that we require masking for all students 11 years and under, and all elementary school staff members, except for those with a medical exemption, until those students have the opportunity to become fully vaccinated.
I'll
And
second
add
that
that to our
motion.
SMART plan.
Discussion.
I will just say that.
Could you repeat the motion, Mary? Just could you repeat it?
Can you talk really loud? Jill gave us a paper.
Yeah, she
You don't
can't
have
see
it, Lori. I'm sorry. So Jill, could you read it really
Send it
loud?
to her. So Lori, I'm making a motion that we require masks for all students 11 years and under, and all elementary school staff members, except for those with a medical exemption, until those students have the opportunity to become fully vaccinated.
And that motion received a second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so my discussion on this is, I guess I would say, in our Smart Start plan, again, anybody can wear a mask that would like to wear a mask. That being said, I would say we could communicate with once we get our Smart Start plan fixed, communicate with our parents and say, look, if your child wears a mask, they will not be considered a close contact, but according to our Smart Start plan. If they want to wear a mask and not be considered a close contact, fantastic. But I don't think we need to stick the entire K5 or whatever it is, K5 or K6, in masks for 3 positive cases.
Other comments?
Aaron, well, I agree with that. Isn't it that the infected person and the close contact have to both be masked?
Yes.
Yes.
It's not just if a kid comes to school and wears a mask that he's not going to be a close contact, because the person infected has to wear one as well.
I mean, it could be that that's the case, but we can't guarantee that's the case.
Thank you,
The
Lori.
2 people both have to have a mask on. Other discussion? All right, then all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
I
All right. Any more motions to make?
Jerry?
Go ahead, Jill.
I move that we require masks for all visitors and guests that are inside our school facility.
Is there a second? Hearing none, that one will fail. Jill?
I move that we change the language for vaccinations to read vaccinations are strongly recommended for all eligible individuals.
Do we have a second? Then that one will fail too.
I move that we change the language under masks to read masks are strongly recommended for all students and staff.
Do we have a second? That one will fail. Hang on a second, Joe. Are we all right over there, Sandra?
Yeah.
Tell us when you're ready.
I move.
Hang on a second, Joe. Are we ready?
I'm sorry.
They gotta get all this down. Are we ready? Go ahead, Joe.
I move that in phase 1, under hygiene measures, that we change the minimum goal to 6 feet from 3 feet for distancing.
Do we have a second?
could you repeat that, please?
Lori, I'm making a motion to make the minimum for distancing 6 feet instead of 3 feet, which is currently in the plan.
Do we have a second?
Can we look at the plan?
Oh,
Just a second.
hang on a second, Lauren, or everybody.
I'm not sure where that 3, well, anyway.
That's what I'm looking at. Want to make
It's under
sure.
hygiene
Under
measures
measures
in
on
phase 1.
page 1.
Efforts will be made to ensure social distancing in the classroom. A minimum goal is 3 feet.
Like change that to 6 feet is the proposal.
Which is also the CDC guideline.
Yeah, I agree. I would second that because it should be 6 when possible.
So it would say, efforts will be made to ensure social distancing in the classroom. The minimum goal is 6 feet. Is that what you want, Jill?
Yes.
Is that in our pandemic plan? Because I don't see that.
It's on,
Yeah.
it's on the first
Under the hygiene
page,
and
under
measures.
hygiene measures,
Phase 1.
and it's bullet point number 3.
Gotcha.
We're changing it from 3 feet to 6 feet. We do have a second. Any discussion?
I think if we're gonna consider that, we need to say when possible, because we've already been told that the kindergarten class is so full.
Well, it does
There
say
is not.
That's what it says. Efforts will be made. I mean,
It does
we
say
do what we
efforts will be
can,
made.
but
And the goal is
the
6
goal
feet.
is 6 feet.
And
The
that
minimum
aligns
goal.
with the CDC guideline.
Yeah.
For quarantining and everything.
And obviously, when we can't, that's where the efforts will be made. So.
More discussion? All those in favor of that change? Aye.
Aye.
I
Those opposed? Sean, you opposed or?
I said aye.
Okay. Yeah, that was a,
Everybody's.
that was
It's
a.
a 7-0 vote.
7-0.
Yes.
Jill, any more?
Does everyone understand the phase 2 piece? That's when we feel like we're looking at a serious problem in our school. And under visitors, I'd like to move that we add a bullet point that says masks will be required for all visitors and guests that are inside that school facility. This is under phase 2.
And right now, we don't see anything about visitors. I don't see anything.
All it says under,
Just got
for
general
visitors is
mask.
guidelines based on input of Wyoming Department of Health and or Wyoming State High School Activities Association, and they have not taken any position on that, so.
I'll second that.
We have a second.
We're all wearing-
Discussion.
Is the motion that we require visitors and guests to wear masks?
Once we go to
Once
phase 2.
Yeah, once we're all fully masked, we would be asking visitors to also be masked.
So only in phase 2?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
You all right, Steve?
Well, I think I'm questioning whether we would still leave the Wyoming Department of Health or the Wyoming High School Activities Association in there. I mean, I'm good with adding the masks required.
I'd put that above that statement because if they
Put
say-
that first. Put that
they might
first.
say.
Yeah.
All those in favor of that change? Aye.
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 Janine, say
Yeah,
something.
I,
Who has a
That's 7.
second on that? I missed it.
I did.
Aaron,
Aaron.
okay, thank you.
Jill,
And finally, I'd like to make a motion to change the mask portion of phase 2. And in bullet point 2, I'd like it, make a motion to change it to say, if the number of active positive cases amongst the students, staff population is more than 5 at any given time, masks will be required for all students and staff members. Previously, we had 5%. I'm just changing that to a flattened number of 5.
so that's active cases, is what we're saying?
Active cases at one
Time,
time all together, yeah.
and that includes students and our staff. We need a second for that. I'll second it. Discussion.
Do we know what 5% would look like in our school? Do we know if we, like staff and students, like what that would look like?
About,
Nine to
I think
10.
about 10 is what we had kind
8.9.
of, based upon where we were at population wise, 9, 10 would be the figure
That's
there.
through all I did there. 9 would be just students, not counting staff.
So we're looking.
5%.
Yeah,
And I'm changing it to.
it doesn't matter.
Five
3%.
Individuals.
Right.
Any combination, students or staff is what you're thinking about, just a total 5 positive
Yeah, all I'm
cases.
adding is a number instead of
Number of 5.
percent.
How many staff are in the school?
49?
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark.
Do the math, come on, Matt.
That'd be 11 and a half, almost 12 people.
Okay.
5%.
5% is 11 and a half, 12. We're looking at 5 is the number. Do we have it? What's wrong?
I'm just gonna clarify, 5 people.
Active cases.
5,
Not
The motion-
5%.
active
The motion
cases.
is to change it to
Yep, it
5.
is.
Just 5.
5 people.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Joe, do you want to make another one?
No, I'm finished, thank you.
Then I'll make one. I say if the number of active cases among student faculty population is more than 7 at any given time, masks be required for all students.
I second the motion.
Discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
But I could ask you, what don't you like about 5%?
It's 12 people. Jill's idea was to drop the threshold to 5 people. That didn't pass, so I'm trying to come to a compromise, see if that might. 7.
7 people.
7 people.
7 people.
Any discussion, Laura?
No.
See 7 raise you 12. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Any more motions? Guys, that was a tough discussion.
It's all
You
tough.
guys did a great job. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciate you being,
I would like to say, Joe, I have the utmost respect for you,
100%.
and I really appreciate your dedication to this, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
hey, we can agree to disagree, but we're doing the best we can for our kids.
Absolutely,
We'll be back at it probably again in a month,
absolutely.
unless I hear about an executive session that I don't know anything about.
No executive session.
Can I have a motion to go home?
Motion
to adjourn.
adjourn.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you.
I'm sorry we were moving a little fast through that. I hope you guys got all that.
I got it. I'll compare notes. I'm hoping.
Just go down through this list.
Yeah, that's pretty much right there.
Lori, you're
Hey,
And it now
That's
looks
in
at
you
it.
take
Yeah,
that.
better like get money on.
Hey, Lori.
She already
She's already
stopped.
Just went.
And I
She
texted
gone.
her, I texted her to see if she would be okay
She
with
gone.
that. So she knows.
I don't know where she actually lives down there, but I'll figure it out.
Lori,
Okay, you wanna do it
Laura-
tomorrow?
are you talking about Lori? When you go into the fish hatchery, when you go into those houses, she's the one right back. So when you pull in, there's a house here, here,
Yeah.
and one on this side. She's on this side.
Do I just go into the main parking lot or do I have to go around in the buildings?
No, when you pull into the housing part.
Yeah.
She's right there.
Okay.
The other ones are kind of right here in front of you, and hers is tucked to this
On
one.
the left.
Yeah. She drives like a Honda Pilot.
Yeah.